All right, Bigfoot Society. Thanks for coming back. We have a special interview tonight. I am talking to Harriet McFeely, the official Nebraska Bigfoot Lady. And also, we have a friend, Kenny, along as well, who is the official Nebraska Bigfoot Guy. And these are like official titles from the state of Nebraska. So it's a pretty big deal. So thanks for being on with me, guys, to talk about different things to do with Nebraska and Bigfoot. Is there anything else you would want the listeners to know about yourself to give context for the interview that we're about to have?
I would just say Kenny and I are partners. We have the only Nebraska Bigfoot Museum here in Hastings, and we also host a conference every single year. And it's the only one in Nebraska.
And so it's one that I have not gone to it yet, and it kills me because so I live in central Iowa. So I mean, if you look at the people that have come to this conference in the past, you've got Danny Perez there. You've got, I think Dr. Meldrum has showed up to that before.
Right.
Bob Gimlin. You've had Cliff Barrickman. I think you've had Bobo too, right? You've had like the big names. So really there's no reason I shouldn't have gone yet, but I'll get there eventually. I'm saving up some coin, right? I think it's about 4-hour drive from central Iowa. But so Harriet, I would like to know first things first, and this question can go for Kenny as well. So what was it that got you both originally into Bigfoot or cryptozoology? What was the main thing that really, sucked you into looking for Bigfoot and being interested in that?
I can remember it very well. It was 1953, and I'm sure you were not even born then.
I'm sure my father was not even born yet.
Anyway, on TV, I was 8 years old, and Sir Ed Hillary climbed to the top of Mount Everest the end of May. And as he was going up the mountain, there was, I don't know, 2 or 3 huge, big, giant footprints in front of him. And I photographed because they laid a pickaxe down next to the footprint. And I looked at that and I knew nothing, but I believed, because I thought, first of all, nobody in their right mind would be up on Mount Everest when the snow was 40 inches deep and the temperature was probably that much below also. And that started me on the journey. I've been on it ever since.
I love that. I love that. And Kenny, what about you?
Well, it's probably in my teens, and about 15. Had a chance to go see a movie. It was either Planet of the Apes or Legend of Boggy Creek.
Totally.
So the other 3 guys went and saw Planet of the Apes, and I went and saw Legend of Boggy Creek. So when we all got out of theaters, of course, they're running around a small town in Nebraska like a bunch of apes and monkeys, and I'm running around a small town in shock. And that's what kind of got the seed started in me to think, what are we and what is that? And when I get older, I will find out. And
that's awesome.
30 years later, like between me and Harriet alone, there's 60 years easy between us.
Wow.
Research. So it starts out either by a story you hear or a movie you hear or
a sighting.
Yeah, and you just grow from there.
So Harriet, you're let's say you said you're 8 years old and 53.
But I'm actually only 30. Around. Yeah.
Okay.
In 1953.
Okay. So then my question is, how well do you remember 67?
My age, 67 or
Or no,
1960.
so 1967 when you had
Well, remember it extremely well because that
oh
was
really?
October 1967 when Roger Patterson shot
Mm-hmm.
the famous film of Patty walking down Bluff Creek. And that's another image that's stamped in my brain forever. And just as an aside, a few years ago, it was the 50th anniversary of that
Mm-hmm.
film. I was invited. I went to California
Oh
to the big
wow.
celebration, and I walked all the way down to the bottom of Bluff Creek, and I walked where Patty actually walked.
Oh, that's cool.
And then later, they wrote a newspaper article and said I was the oldest woman that ever walked down to Bluff Creek, and I also made it back to the top.
So who do you remember you're walking down to Bluff Creek? Who was walking with you? That's always a fun question to ask.
Boy, gosh, I didn't know the people. They were there was about 7 men, and
Okay.
they had years trying to find the exact location. And I don't know who they were,
Oh,
but a couple
was it the
people
Bluff Creek
from,
Project guys?
I
I
think
wonder if
so.
it
Tell me
was.
if you,
You'd have like Rowdy Kelly,
yep, he was there.
Tate Hieronymus, younger
Yep.
guy. Oh, that's
Mhm.
cool. That's cool. Yeah, I'm good friends with Tate. But yeah, no, the Bluff Creek Project guys, they're the ones that kind of, figured out 100% where that location is, and they can take you down there. So that's really cool how
Yep.
we got that connection there for sure. So that brings a question up though. How is it that you got an invitation to go out to the 50th? How did you get on the radar?
It was, well, I certainly was not anybody, and I wasn't in that circle. But one of my other friends from Colorado had a friend that lived out there around Bluff Creek. I think she lived in Oregon, and she knew some of those guys. And they were
Okay.
saying, "Hey, why don't you come down? We're having the 50th." So she said, "Well, how about if I invite some of my friends?" So that's how I got
Hmm.
invited. It was just a fluke.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but
funny.
she also had a plan there too, though.
Yeah, I did.
And that was asking Bob to come to our event, and he did.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
She's
Okay,
not
so
just
that's how you got Bob to come out. Okay.
yeah.
yeah. And I had been lectured many, many, many times. Do not ask Bob Gimlin to come to the conference because I can tell you right now that he will not come.
Mm.
And so I
And
said, okay, knowing I was going to.
you're like,
And I,
don't you tell me what to do because I'm asking Bob
yeah,
Gimlin to come out to
well,
Nebraska.
well, and I always think, what's the worst thing that could have happened? He would have
That's
said
true.
no.
Yeah.
So I walked up to him and they introduced me and I said, Bob, I have just one question for you. And he said, what's that? And I said, will you come to Nebraska to our conference? And he looked at me and he said, well, honey, I'd sure like to do that. And he did.
That's
And he
awesome.
still calls me honey.
Oh,
It
wow.
was good.
Very cool. Very cool. What a fun story. Um,
Yeah.
this is a question both of you could answer. So what was it that walk me through like the start of the museum, or like when was it you got to the idea to create the museum in Nebraska and the history behind that?
Well, same time that I saw Sir Edmund Hillary on the TV, we have a really nice big museum here in Hastings. And
Mm-hmm.
so every Saturday for years, I got on my bicycle and I rode over to the museum. And the curator there let me go in the back room with him every Saturday. And he would make exhibits and he put skeletons together and
Oh wow.
he did everything. And I thought, I want to be Burton Nelson. And I always wanted to work in a museum and I wanted to be an anthropologist.
Mm. Wow, that is cool. That is cool. Kenny, any thoughts about the history of the museum? Anything like that?
Well, she's talking about going to our local Hastings City Museum, and you know, she loves talking about the Merle Hall Museum in Lincoln.
Mm.
So just her passion for bones. She found a mammoth bone in her early ages.
Oh, wow.
So I think that kind of got her seated and starting to grow in this, and she's come a long ways. And I think her bones and you know how she got started to kind of get things going there. So we have a good display in our museum of bones, and
Okay.
yeah.
That's cool. So you found a mammoth bone when you
And
were,
when
oh, wow.
I was 13,
Oh man, how big
that's
was
one of
it?
my prized possessions. It was the very, very first, it weighed 13 pounds. It was a fossil, and
Okay.
it was the top, um, your femur
Yeah.
is your leg bone, and it was the top, like on a chicken leg, how it looks like two big knobs. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it was.
Oh, wow. 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 And did you find it, was it in like a field or like sticking out of a creek bed, or like what kind of environment was it
It
in?
was, it was both. It was in the southern part of Nebraska,
Okay.
and I was looking for arrowheads because Chief Red Cloud
Mm.
used to come there every year to hunt buffalo. And I was walking down a dry creek bed, and I saw this round thing. It was about as big as a grapefruit sticking out of the edge of the bank.
Okay.
And I mean, I certainly wasn't looking for an elephant bone. And so all I could find was a stick. So I dug it out with a stick. And then at the time, you have to understand that I only weighed about 60 pounds.
Okay.
And this bone weighed 13. It's
Wow.
petrified. Carry it
Yeah.
a whole mile back to my aunt's house. And then I
Oh
took it back
man.
to my museum again. And second I walked in, they said, just like that, well, it's a woolly mammoth bone.
Wow.
So
Oh, that's
so
cool.
her passion for the museum got her to start the museum in a downstairs lower part of her house. And
Okay.
actually, I believe Dick, her husband, mentioned that. Dick didn't mention? How did you he kind of wanted to know how did you get that to get started in your house like this?
My husband had recently died, but it
Oh,
was
okay.
his that we have the conference,
Ah,
which that was his brainstorm, and then he died. And then I
Oh,
went ahead and had it against all odds. But I
wow.
had so many things, you know, that were Bigfoot related. And I had studied ever since, like I said, I was 8 years old. And I just have so many things. And then too, the speakers that have come to the conference, almost every single one of them have given me something that I've used for a display.
Oh, that's
So every
cool.
display here has a story behind it.
Oh
Every
man.
single one. And I had so many things, and I started looking for a site, but everything was way too expensive. I couldn't afford, you know, high
Sure.
rent or anything. And
Sure.
well, and then one of my friends called me up and she said, Harriet, do you happen to have just a small little corner of your house that you could use? And I did have, because we used to do outdoor weddings here.
Okay.
And as soon as she said that, 2 o'clock the next morning, I was hauling my stuff out of, it was like a big room. And the very first thing I put in was my woolly mammoth bone. And, and
Totally.
I had things that these speakers had given me, and friends, and pictures, and oh, I couldn't even begin to tell you all the things I have.
yeah.
I'm going to ask. So let's say someone is from the Midwest and they want to check out a Bigfoot museum. Can you give us maybe a little taste of like the kind of things that they would see in your museum, and not like, totally give away the farm, but maybe a little sample of what things that you have in the museum.
Well, at one time, I thought some of the skulls from Peru could possibly be Bigfoot or something. And I've since changed my mind, but my friend has the biggest fossil museum in Texas. So he gave me
Okay.
a whole bunch of skulls from Peru. And a lot of
Really?
people, are you sure it's not a bear? So I have a bear skull and a gorilla's skull and a
Okay.
copy Neanderthal skulls, so people can look at them and they can compare them. And I've got lots and lots of casts, and Kenny is really an expert on Bigfoot casts, and I've got a lot of his and everything that he has just about in my
Mm,
museum. And then when I went to Bluff Creek, I've got all the pictures that I brought that I took there myself. But
okay.
then I brought back rocks and trees and driftwood and branches and all kinds of stuff. So everything that's in the room where Patty is stuff that came originally from Bluff Creek.
Oh, that's cool. That is really cool. That is cool. Kenny, how long have you been casting tracks for, would you say?
Oh, forever. I mean, 20-year plus. I've recently been on a study for 5 years now of a group that I know is growing around a reservoir, and it's so neat to go up every year, and I get excellent mud prints and
Okay.
a lot of snow prints because I have done most of my Bigfooting in Colorado, up in the high Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
I've only been down in Nebraska. This is my home state, but I moved away at 15 and came back at 59.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
so I'm still new down in here. I miss my Colorado, but up there, you know, the area that I did do the 5 year and continue still doing this, the footprints are getting bigger, and we know they're the same type of family because a friend of mine also has an area from where I'm at, about a mile away, and he's getting the same footprints on his mud over there on that reservoir. So
Oh,
we know
wow.
these things travel, live in that area. And in 5 years, see, we put our stuff together. We work together. We don't have
Okay.
this
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
fighting. You got better stuff than I got. We actually put it all together and really came up with stuff that just blow you away. But yeah, I've been casting I love casting the little guys. My smallest one's about 3.5 inches, and my biggest is around that I ever gotten. It's around 23 inches. I've gotten a three
Wow.
toed. I've gotten 3-toed 12.5 inch one. So I love the mud um and the snow. And when I'm getting these prints, they're so inline, it's unreal. It's like they run
Mm,
like a tight. We're not walking this way. We're not walking it so inline like that. So that's what intrigues me about seeing that in the mud and snow too, because you see the carpet and you see the stride, you see the length, you see that they're not waddling like a duck. They're walking so inline, they're on a tightrope. So
wow.
yeah, I love to cast footprints. It's
That's
one of my
awesome. Do
favorite.
you have any advice for newer people that are just getting into casting footprints? Do you have any advice for
Yeah,
newbies?
we just did one yesterday in Nebraska. A guy here found one on his property, so I watched him cast it, and he was, don't get so excited that you want to mix
Mm,
your consistency of your pour. And I don't use hydrocal. You can use hydrocal, but I just use a poor man's pour, plaster of Paris. And
okay.
I just mix it to a pudding consistency, but really mix it well. And then before I spray the or pour the cast, I will spray it sometimes with say if I have paint, I'll use paint. If I have hairspray, I'll use that. A lot of times in the Rockies, in the snow, I'll use a wax spray that you put on your skis. So I kind of coat the print a little bit, and instead of reaching in and trying to gouge out con- contamination in the print, I have a little blowout bubble. I can just blow contamination out. Try to clean the print up a little bit, but then when you do your pour, just do your pour consistency like a pudding, and like
Okay.
just pour it in. And I take and put straps of what you strap your sheetrock with, that tape. I
Oh
use
yeah,
little
sure.
bands. I just put it on the back of it. So now when it gets all hard and toughens out, you want a tendency, people want to pull them early and then you snap them and break
Mm,
them.
yeah.
But yeah, so just prepare your cast, and then don't be sloppy in your pour. And I try to keep inside the pour, not try to just blot it, just pour it
All
all
right.
out. I try to keep into the form, but after all these years of doing it, you learn certain ways, and it's very hard to get prints. People say it's so hard to get prints. Yeah, it is, but I seem to get a lot in my years.
Yeah.
I
So
love that. That's good advice, Kenny. Thank you. Going off the topic of advice, do you guys have any advice also for, let's say, if a listener's like, I would love to start a cryptozoology museum, or I'd like to start a cryptozoology conference? Do you have any advice for either of those? Because those are huge undertakings, I would imagine.
well, I want to jump in on that. 14 years ago in Estes Park, Colorado, I came in and there wasn't even a Bigfoot t-shirt in town. Their awareness of the Sasquatch was, or the forest people were Neil. It was something that they thought it was an fortune there prior to me getting there. I don't know how anybody can't believe there's not Bigfoots around Estes Park. You're at the foot of the Rocky Mountain National Park. Well, so I started having events, and I would have, you know, like David Plott has helped me a lot, and
Oh, wow.
Dennis Poles from the Erickson Project would help me a lot too. And actually, Dennis was my mentor. He showed me how to be more of a scientific thinker and not so unorthodox. I was very kind of researcher, would take the pictures, run home, circle everything, and say it was a Bigfoot. But
Right.
the good people I surrounded myself with matured me, and I had a bunch of conferences. So the town was like, he's having these conferences and he's drawing people in, and so I had 6 of them. Finally, they came in and says, "Look, we're gonna fund your conference. We're gonna call it Bigfoot Days, and we'd like for you to run this." And I ran it for 2 years. We've been
Oh,
canceled
wow.
for 2 years in Estes Park. But with Harriet, as far as how we met, she wanted some work done on this museum, and I came down and did about a week's worth of work and working in her museum, and that's how we met. So it was kind of nice to meet her, and then she offered her museum. And also we have a friend in Bailey, Colorado, the Sasquatch Outpost.
Oh, yeah,
So we
sure.
all try
Yep.
to we all try to work together as a unit, and we coincide with each other. And between the 2 museums, we do a lot of functions, and we just got done doing an event in
Okay.
Bailey. Me and Harriet went up with Igor and had an
Right.
event up there. So yeah, we work together for
Awesome.
sure.
Anything to add to that here yet? Any advice you might give to people looking into doing this?
Well, the first piece of advice is consider winning the lottery.
Ah, yes. Good advice.
But
Yeah.
I think with Kenny and I think we make a perfect match because we're positive thinkers and we
Mm-hmm.
bounce ideas off of each other. And also, like he said, with Jim Myers in Bailey at his museum.
Sure.
And, I think 3 heads are better than 1.
Mm-hmm.
And just because we don't do an idea this year doesn't mean it's canceled forever. Sometimes it's next year.
Gotcha.
And the other thing that I just wanted to mention that Kenny and I were so thrilled and so honored at the end of our conference here in Hastings, which was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Igor Burtsev came from Moscow, Russia, to be one of our speakers, and that was just over the top. We were so
Mm.
excited. But at the end of the conference, Igor um, invited Kenny and I and a couple other of the people that work with us here that we would be members of his Russian Hominology of the Forest people. And they've
Oh, wow.
never had Americans in their group before, ever.
That's cool.
So that was just, boy, that was a high point.
Yeah, because we have
Yeah, yeah.
these speakers here, right? But our old speakers, our old guys are dropping left and right. We're losing our guys. And what do we have?
It's true. It's true, Kenny. Yeah. Yeah.
And what do we have to follow up on that? Like you said, we have good speakers here, but to have Igor here and know all these years and to spend 2 weeks with him after that event, we went over to the Omaha reservation and
Oh, wow.
see Nebraska. Oh man, did I was so grateful to have him out in the field with me. That's how.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So.
I would have a lot of listeners come after me if I don't bring this up, because this year's Nebraska Bigfoot Conference became very popular for, like it got picked up by coast to coast and you guys were all over the place. Can you walk me through what happened that everyone had their eyes on the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference?
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna let Harriet start.
All right. Go ahead.
The very first thought that I had was, this was not planned. It was not a publicity stunt or anything. Yep. We had just gone past the noon hour and Igor had just started to speak, which was scheduled. And I don't think he was into his talk 5 minutes and his telephone rang. Here he is up on stage. So he answers the phone and it's this guy named Alex, which we're looking, all of us, we're going, who's Alex? We didn't know. Igor was so excited and he started yelling, but he was in Russian. We couldn't understand him. And this person on the phone, then he would yell back and then Igor, and we're still, what's going on here? And the bottom line is this Alex, of course, in Russia, it was the middle of the night.
Okay.
Here, it's about 2 p.m. or something like that. And the bottom line was Igor had been going up there and he would spend like a month or so with this Alex and a couple other guys.
Oh, wow.
And they got some of the Bigfoot in that area started coming around their trailer a lot.
Okay.
And time they came, they would speak just like Ron Moorhead, if you've ever heard the Sierra sounds.
That's okay. So that's awesome. You brought that up and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So, and they've tested the Sierra sounds a zillion times and it comes back, Scott Nelson, it's the real deal. And so in the meantime, Igor's yelling at Alex in Russian and we're just kind of going on for the ride. And basically this Russian guy said, Igor translated it, something to the effect that he has got this Bigfoot is standing right there next to him.
Wow.
And that's what we said, plus a couple other things. And so this Bigfoot guy started making all kinds of sounds. His voice was different than the recording that Ron Moorhead had, but
sure.
I mean, it's on the other side of the world.
Right.
And so we just listened to this conversation back and forth for 5 minutes or
at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Most of it we did not understand what they were saying, but basically that was it. And so now we are in the process of having that tape, and the same thing happened out in Colorado, that we're having both of those.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Analyzed by a speech linguist who can tell us, first of all, if it was a fake or a hoax, or if, like the Sierra sounds, it turned out to be the real thing.
Right.
Exactly.
Look what Ron Moorhead went through.
Yep.
With Sierra sounds. Now, what if this is legit, guys? Igor's not out there to discredit nobody. He's a very pure guy. The guy is 81 years old, and he's got so much years of credibility that this could just, the news and the could just trash him on this. And but guys, what if it is real? And he is. Now, I know what you're saying. I have done between the Sierra sounds, and I've got tapes you guys don't have because I'm right up on the stage. At one point in time in this conversation beginning, the guy that the forest being, Igor does not like to say Bigfoot, so call him forest beings.
Sure.
Thinks it's human. It's a feral human of some type. So he uh, that at one time I heard it say his name. It said Igor Burtsev,
Oh,
and
wow.
but if you try to take the Sarah sounds, listen to it, and take that tapes and listen to it, that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna have somebody that can do this,
Expert.
analyze it, yeah, and give us a better hypothesis of what we were listening to. We weren't
That's
trying to
smart.
hoax. There wasn't trying to be a hoax on that.
Yep.
Igor's intentions is there to discredit. It's just a man that's brought us so many years of his research, and that was sprung on us. So just so you guys know.
That's cool. And like so a group of us were having a discussion about that event, like right after it happened the next day or two. And they were like, this just sounds so crazy. I'm like, guys, think of the Sierra sounds. Think of what happened when those first came out. How much backlash and people being like, oh, are you sure? And now the Bigfoot community is like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, that's legit. And like, what's to say this isn't something similar? Like, it's incredible. So it'll be interesting to see the study by the linguist to see what happens next.
And also you can add to that list, what was it like when the Patterson Gimlin film came out?
Yeah.
That's 50 years old, and they're still analyzing it and saying it was some guy wearing a monkey suit.
That's true. So that's why I was like kicking myself, because I was like, oh yeah, nothing big will happen at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference this year. And then it's like literally
Wrong.
probably the third biggest thing in Bigfoot history probably happened. You know, it's ridiculous. So good for you guys.
And it happened just unexpectedly. It's just like it just happened, guys. There was nothing planned on that. And like you're saying, man, that's a big deal to us.
It is.
Actually,
It is.
Because it's not about the glorification of things, it's about the education of things.
Exactly.
And blew everything that we believed in and the foundation of the things that we believe in. Not just that phone call. When it went through the Bigfoot community, like you said, like, oh my goodness.
Crazy.
It was bad. So yeah.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to get massacred the second that it happened. And honestly, the first day I thought, what are they thinking of? How could this Alex think of pulling a hoax like that on us in the middle of the conference? And I was just so shocked, and boy, that just blew the whole bottom out of the conference. But then the next, when I kind of could think about it, then I was thinking the other way, but what if it was the real deal? And I mean, I can't even imagine what like Kenny just said, what are the ramifications of that? I don't know.
Totally.
I mean,
yeah.
And you know what? We're as much in the dark as all the people out there are that are criticizing us, conference and Igor and everything else. So that's the only thing we can do is wait till we get the results. And when we get the results, you should call us back and talk to us again.
I would love to. If you let me know and we will have a follow-up. Like, I have no problem with that. That would be fantastic. I love every interview. I love to ask a group of the same questions, and it's interesting to see how different interviewees have different answers. So I will go through those questions if that's all right, and you're both welcome to answer them. So what is a thing that you wish more people asked you about? And we could say this is regarding Bigfoot if you want.
Boy, that's about one of the hardest questions that I can ever think of being asked.
Yeah, it is.
I know when people come to the museum or when they come to the conference, the only thing that I really want is if they would just bring an open mind. And I have a lot of skeptics that come, and I really like skeptics because they ask really good questions, and you have to stand there and think, what do I really believe about whatever, or what do I even know about it? And it really makes you and evaluate, whatever the question is.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, anything to add to that, Kenny? Anything you wish people talk to you more about Bigfoot or asked you more about Bigfoot?
Yes, Kenny, he said, is there anything that you say that again for him?
Is there
That
anything that
question.
you wish people talked to you more about regarding Bigfoot or asked you more about regarding Bigfoot?
It's how we can. I'll always get how we can catch them. It's how can
Ah,
we not? How can we be more passionate to them? Everybody wants to get a body and get and kill them, and I wish there was just more of a protection. More people would ask, how can we, be more passionate towards them instead of always trying to kill them and get a body.
sure.
Um, and then just but any question we get, it's a question it's sometimes it's got answers and sometimes it's got more questions to it.
Hmm.
So
That's a good point. That's a good point. Um, good answers. What are the top books that someone getting into Bigfoot research should have on their bookshelf? Are there any favorites that you have?
Harriet's more of a reader
Okay.
than me, but Igor just gave me one of his books. But his problem is he doesn't have a lot of them. He didn't get all
Ah,
the prints. But um Harriet, what do you think? What would you
Oh, I like Ron Moorhead's books on Sierra Sounds. I
yep.
started
Yep.
way back in the 50s with Charles Darwin and the
Okay.
origin of the
Oh
species.
yeah, sure.
Um, Jeff Meldrum has some good books. I like Autumn Williams has the book Enoch.
Yeah, yeah,
I
okay.
really
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yep.
Um, there is so many books. Cliff Brackman, he's got some excellent ones out.
Xana, the story of Xana,
Xana.
you know.
Xana was Igor's story,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
still unfolding since 1870. And there's
Nice.
another really, really hot book on the market right now. It's called A Walk on the Weird Side Across Nebraska.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That would be Harriet's book that she wrote about
Oh, is I
our
didn't know you
flag.
had a book. That's cool. I'm gonna have to check
Well,
this out.
when you talk to me, I didn't have one. Then I was waiting for it to be published.
Oh, okay. So this is pretty new.
It's brand new.
Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
Yep.
Congratulations. That's huge. What's this book
Thank you.
all about?
Actually, it is a true story that really happened in Nebraska just a year ago on Memorial Day.
Hmm.
And they got up on that Sunday morning and the flag in the cemetery was completely ruined. And
Oh,
it just caused an uproar because it was a small town. There's only 54 people in the whole town. And a lady came to the museum and told me the story. And she talked about how the flag was braided. And in one of my rooms, I have got a whole exhibit on the horsehair that they think the Bigfoot are braiding. I don't
oh
know. Are you
really?
familiar with that?
I've heard stories to do with something similar to that before. Yep.
Well, I've got a whole exhibit on that. And
Oh
as the
really?
lady
Okay.
was telling me the story, she stopped and she said, in fact, the flag in Garrison looks exactly like the horsehair that you have got braided in your room back
Whoa.
there. And
Interesting.
I about fainted. I'm not kidding you. And
Okay.
so I began to investigate it. Kenny was on my team. We went down there a couple times. And the second I saw the flag, I knew it was
Hmm.
exactly like the horsehair braid.
Oh wow.
And I thought I was going to write just a little teeny pamphlet that would kind of tell about it. But as it turns out, that story goes back over 30 years. Had all
Oh
of these
my.
happenings have been going on, but the people didn't realize. All they just say, well, something really weird happened at my farm, or
Right.
they never put it together. And when I started collecting these stories, I was
Okay.
just amazed. So
Hmm. Where can
that's
people pick up that book? Is that a Amazon thing or?
it's on my website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they can just go on and look at it there. And there's lots of people, Don Monroe and Joe Taylor and Ron Moorhead, and
Hmm.
a lot of those people all added chapters to my book.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
It's not
Very,
just
very cool.
my thinking.
All right. We'll have to have that linked in the show notes for sure. The next group of questions are pretty much well, the first one is how do you explain what Bigfoot is? What is Bigfoot according to you? That's a quite the
Yeah,
question, I know.
well, I'll tell you, for a lot of years, a bipedal hominid human,
Mm,
a missing link, something in there that's uh between got bred in there in that link of the marsupials that we come from, whatever. So the uh many years of a gigantic pithecus, like
mm,
just just many years of hearing DNA, but you always hear we have the mother, but we mitochondrial, but we don't have a male. You think, why do I always get the female? We can't get a male. So then uh now I'm talking 30 years of me or more in the field, that just last year I had an incident happen to me where, a lot of times out there I always thought, uh there's another side to this. Are we connected on the alien side? And it was like,
mm.
that goes a little bit more deeper with me now, that I think that maybe there's something in there that we got alien in us too. But what do I think they are? That's the question on who has the answer. Um, I know that what I have seen out there in the four sightings I've had,
Sure.
that they are more human. They are uh, not that monkeyish looking. I've seen
Interesting.
them. I've seen them with the nose, the eyebrows stuck so far back in their head, and the nose protruding of the chin. It just looked like a Cro-Magnon man, just
Hmm.
more of a
Oh, wow.
caveman, but in a sickly manner. And this one was a red one. It was over 8 feet, and the way it looked at me was a stare that was it didn't want to. I had no fear in me from it. I just thought all he has to do is just take a few steps and stomp on top of me, and
Yeah, right. Oh,
he
man.
didn't do it
Yeah,
because you want to hear about more about our sighting. We can go on and on and on more about my sightings, but what do I think they are? I think they're more to like us. I think they have a family group. They have feelings. I think they tend to their dead. I don't
mm,
think they discard it. They don't think they discard them in a way that's to them it's meaningful. And a Bigfoot chooses you in sightings. People think you're going to go out and get them. No, they know who you are, and they'll give it to you when they want.
Mm.
So, well, what are they? I don't know, Harriet. What do you think on that?
yeah,
I,
that's a
I
pretty I like that answer though, Kenny. Thank you. Go ahead, Harriet.
that was I agree with Kenny 100%. But I also would like to add, they are so intelligent. They are so smart that I'm constantly amazed at the things they do. And just like
Mm.
going back to that flag, when it first happened, I was really angry because I thought it was vandalism.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I thought I just couldn't imagine that somebody would do that, to the flag in a little cemetery. And as I look at it now, I think when I look at those horse parades, they are so intricate. And some of them are really, really small. And you look
Mm.
at structures that they make, some of them, I mean, they're so beautiful. They're like huge, big stars and A's and stuff
Oh,
like that.
wow.
And now I'm beginning to think that the flag was not an act of vandalism. I think they were making the braids.
Hmm.
They're really, boy, they are really interesting. Kenny and I, we've spent hours looking at that flag. Um, and it's really something to see.
That is fascinating, and I'm definitely gonna have to check out that museum. I mean, especially if there's an exhibit on that. Um, the next few, so we kind of sprinkle in some other non-Bigfooty things. So, do you guys have any thoughts on the cryptid Mothman at all?
Well,
And
you
if you
know,
just want to say no, then that's cool.
yeah.
We'll just skip right on over. No sweat.
Well, it's just like the dog man. I've seen that, so I can't say there isn't a Mothman. There's stories of that moose underneath the water. It's got gills. I don't know what you call them. The linger, right? The lion and the
Oh, yeah, the
liger.
liger. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
stuff like just
Hmm.
how do we? I don't know. I just it's what I've seen out there. I cannot say to anybody, no, you didn't see it, or no, it's not.
True.
I can
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
say is I can only wrap around and say, I've seen things, and I can't say that I have. Can't.
All
I
right.
won't say that. So
All right.
we can look them off in
So
there.
Mothman,
I
not so
just,
much. Oh, go
Not so
ahead.
much.
I don't agree with that.
All right.
Because I was in Texas a couple of years ago. I was a speaker at a conference there. And Texas is just a weird place where I was because they have everything you could ever imagine. They have got
Sure.
pterodactyls, they've got UFOs, they have got aliens, they've
Oof.
got Bigfoot, uh, chupacabra, they've got everything where I was at. And anyway, they asked me to interview two women, and both of them had face to face, up close encounters with a Mothman.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of them actually went with her car, and she showed me this big dent in her front passenger side fender. And
No way.
the reason I believed it is because when these women were telling me their stories, they were so animated. And this
Hmm.
one woman just broke out in a sweat, and their eyes were as big as golf balls. And they told me that story like it had just happened 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
And that's one way that I judge a lot of stories that I hear between, it's a con job or it's the real thing. And both of
Exactly.
these women have lived in community their whole life. Both of them, one was a nurse's aide, one was an RN, and
Hmm.
their husbands own businesses right there in town. They've got excellent reputations. And even to come out and tell their story, that was really big deal for
Yeah,
them.
that's huge. That's huge. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Uh, the next up would be, do we have any thoughts about the cryptid dog man at all?
Well, I know that it was in the afternoon, and I'm hiking down a trail. And then in my years of doing this, I've learned listen to your senses. And
Okay.
a lot of times, you always feel like there's something out there watching you. And once in a while, that's in my early days. I just turn around and take pictures. Scott Carpenter did it a lot by carrying a camera that was faced behind him. So as
Sure.
he's walking forward, he's getting shots from behind, and you're going to see him look up and down. And
Oh, man.
so, I thought, that I would do something like that. And so what I do is I'm walking down the trail this one day. It's about 12:30 sunlight, and I have that feeling. Look around and look up in the trees. A lot of people look on the ground and they're looking. I look up in the trees a lot too. So I turn around and look up over in the tree, and there is a creature up in the uh, trees, and he's on a limb. And he's just kind of looking down at me. He looks like a bear dog, and all I know is that something said to me as I turn around, and I have my camera in my days always at my chest. So I turn around, I take a picture of this thing looking down at me. And all I did was just turn around and walk on my way. It was like, I am
Yeah.
not no further on this. And
Yep.
I just got away. And people say, boy, you lucky you got away. You lucky you didn't tear you up. I thought, you know, I got the picture of it. It's up in the tree. Could be a bear, but to me, it looked more doggish. But
Hmm.
but the um oh the skinwalkers and the
Oh, sure.
The one, yeah, I don't know. It's but this was daytime, and it was pretty clear. I mean, what I saw. So
Wow. That's
yeah.
fascinating. Any thoughts about Dogman at all, Harriet?
I can tell you the truth. I do not know one thing about a dog man other than what I've read for the pictures. But
And
I
that's
will say,
okay.
if somebody like Kenny tells me that story and I know
Yep.
him and I trust him, if he says it, then I believe it.
There you go. There you go. Uh
Mhm.
the next one. So the last cryptid I bring up, and this is our favorite regional one in Iowa. You guys have any thoughts about the Van Meter visitor? Have you ever heard about that guy before? If you
Let
haven't,
me.
it's okay. He's a pretty small guy, but it's
Um,
winged
yeah.
cryptid from 1903.
Huh,
No, I don't
no.
know.
Oh, you should check it out. We have a festival every year in September. It's kind of like the version of well, it's like a winged creature that terrorized the small town of Van Meter for a few days in September 1903, and then they got him out in a mine and blew him to kingdom come. So
Hmm.
classic American tale, of course. What would you consider the top evidence for Bigfoot? And this is our last final question. We cap it off with.
Well, we can go from the Roger Patterson film to
Mm-hmm.
the. Guys, I like the Paul Freeman film too. I like
Oh wow, yeah,
in his voice on how he sounded on that. But here we go again. It's everybody just ridicules everything, anyways. So, the Sierra sounds. If you want to listen to uh, vocalizations in that part, as far as good film footage, what do we have? We have Patty. And
hmm,
Patty. It's got to be one of the most still to this day, got to be the most credible one film out there that I think.
sure, yep,
But you're gonna have the dryer, you're gonna have the ice man, you're gonna have all that crap that stinks everything up. And
mm-hmm.
we know Patty was in the movie production crew making. I mean, that was she was there, and they got her, and it's probably one of the best film to this day.
No doubt, no doubt. Harriet, your thoughts?
I agree 100%. Whenever people come to the museum, I have different pictures of Patty around the famous one. And
Oh,
that's
cool.
what I say. I said, that is the best picture in history. It's
Hmm.
clear, enhanced it now. MK Davis
Oh
did
yeah,
that. He
sure, yep.
did a fantastic job. And, there's so much evidence that she was the real thing that I just can't imagine people still saying, well, was it in a monkey suit and all that?
Plus, we know the most ultimate one is, you're a believer. When you see one, you become the knower.
Yeah,
Then
that's
you
a
know
fact.
they're for real. How do you not? How do you share that with people unless you've seen one?
Yeah.
Then for fact. Yeah, it's like looking at the. I always said it's like looking at the end of the rainbow, watching a leprechaun flipping the golden coins out, laughing at you, going, "Yeah, I'm real." Looking at this, and you're going, "My God, you're right there. You're real." I mean, my first sighting was I kept saying in my head, "Oh my God, they're real. Oh my God, they're real." All these years looking for them, and be careful when you do find them because
Hmm,
that's prepared when you do. A lot of people, I'll go out and find
sure.
one. Well, yeah, but be prepared when you see one because it will change you mentally. It'll change you physically. It'll change your drives. It changes
Wow.
Emotionally.
emotionally. It can be something that can destroy your life or just make it more better, I would think. I
Mm,
think, yeah.
that's intense. That's intense.
Hmm.
And who knows, someday someone might answer this question. Let's imagine 50 years from now, they might say, I think the best evidence was when Burtsev talked to that Bigfoot on the phone and back in 21.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be something?
in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
in
Kenny.
Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see what the investigation brings up, right? They'll be fun. Fun to see.
So, so you were saying that hit pretty much the community. Me and Harry didn't get in none of the repercussions on it. We just let it go. We don't even know where it went. So it sounds like you said it went to coast. And
It went everywhere, Kenny. It was on major news. Well, in our circles, coast to coast is a major news outlet, right? Like if you think about it. But so what happened is some guy in the audience taped it and put it up on YouTube, and then all like coast to coast put it up on their website, and then everyone in the entire, like, I know a lot of people, and everyone was talking about Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. Like that was huge, huge, huge news. But yeah,
next year.
yeah, come next year, man. Who knows what'll happen next year? But Kenny and Harriet, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. Do you mind kind of sharing, like, if people want to keep up to date with what you're doing, what they can do to follow what you guys are up to?
We would love that. You know, we've always been a people group. So we hear lots of stories and letters and texts and all kinds of things.
And the website here it is Bigfoot Nebraska Museum.com.
Yeah. I was brain
Perfect.
dead.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, you're good.
I got a site on Facebook called Bigfoot Loose, LOOS, Bigfoot Loose USA /Facebook. And you're going to see in there, oh gosh, hundreds of videos of me up in Estes Park for 14 years. You're going to see castings, just track lines. You see that Facebook page shows a lot of what I've done out in the field as a researcher, boots on the ground, researcher, mud on the heels, tracking my hand, and wide-eyed with the story, you know, just for a lot of years. And so Bigfoot Loose USA.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, and you're still okay with hanging out for a few extra minutes to chat about a few more stories? Awesome. Okay. So they are cool with doing that. As for the Patreon supporters of the podcast, is patreon.com/Bigfoot Society. If you want to hear some extra stories, you can help support the podcast for $5 a month. But thanks so much for coming on, Kenny and Harriet, and have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.